So, wish everyone a very good evening in India and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Right now it's 11:30 at night in Australia, where I am right now, and I'll be speaking for about 20 minutes on the topic that is my book Brahmaputra, the story of Lachit Borphukan, Assamese contemporary of Chhatrapati Shivaji. First and foremost, I would like to thank Indic Book Club as also Swarajya magazine for organizing Indic. Hopefully you will like this small talk by me. So essentially I will be talking for about 15-20 minutes, and after which I'll open this chat for questions. You can ask me questions in the comment section, which I will finish talking. And in case I'm not able to answer them live, then I'll definitely answer them later on in the comment section itself. Right. So the first question is why Assam? It's the question that is most often asked. And as I mentioned in the preface to the book also, it was the chance reading of an Amar Chitrakatha when I was, I believe, in 8th or 9th standard. And as I read that book, I found that a lot of things were common between Maratha history and Assamese history, and especially the guerrilla tactics and their this is the kind of thing that inspired me. And apart from that, I saw a lot of similarities, a lot of common names that were there. Say Ram Singh, Aurangzeb, Diler Khan. These names are very and you find those names again cropping up in Assamese history. So this really perked up my interest as to what links were there between these two faraway lands, because these links were political, historical, and most importantly the links were in terms of what kind of values were so that inspiration that this topic of Lachit Borphukan and explore it even more deeply and come up with a book. So I went about researching, and Senapati or Commander-in-Chief, and about time 1662 to about 1670, 71, 72. So this was a time period in which it began with, Mir Jumla managed to win a lot of forts, win a lot of territory, and annexed Guwahati also along with it. And later on, it was decided by the Ahom dynasty to fight back against it. They built their army very slowly. His name was Lachit. He had been serving as various junior ranks in the Ahom army, in the Assamese army, and he was appointed the Borphukan, from which point obviously he took over the command and not only defeated the Mughals and drove them out of Guwahati, but also defeated the Mughal army to try to take back what they had lost to Lachit Borphukan. And here, of course, all of us have heard about the Battle of Saraighat. It is the most famous battle to have been fought on a river. In fact, it is perhaps the only major battle to have been fought entirely on the river. And selected Guwahati as a place to fight the Mughals instead of fighting it anywhere else in Assam. And I would like to now speak a few words about why this was a very good decision and how it showed Lachit Borphukan as somebody who was a great strategist who could actually not only fight war but also was very good in diplomacy field and, like I said, in guerrilla warfare, which is Maharashtra. In fact, the Assamese word for it is in fact translates in English as war by deceit, which I think is a very good way of putting guerrilla warfare. So Guwahati, and the reasons were that at Guwahati this river is really narrow, pass, and which is connecting to plains. So just like how mountain passes have become almost central to many battles. We have the battle, we have the Pawan Khind battle, which was in the pass. We have various battles fought in the Khyber Pass. We have a very famous battle between the Greeks and the Persians again, which was immortalized in that movie called, which is sort of a pass made of water. So it narrowed down a lot, and Lachit Borphukan aimed to trap the Mughals by making them suddenly narrow all their resources into a very small gap of just about 1 mile. The either side of it is about 4 to 5 miles. Also, the flow of the water when he planned that the flow of the water suddenly increased because of the narrowing, and the Mughals who were coming from downstream would have found it. Apart from this, he had used many different kind of fortifications, something known as Panigarh, which involved putting embankments quickly from east to west or even west to east, and other improvements such as putting up quick outposts on the river which would enable weapons to be put on them, and most importantly in comparison to the Mughals, which gave them a lot more maneuverability. So Lachit Borphukan, as we can see, had used his resources very well and planned it perfectly to ensure a great victory, and this is what I have tried to cover in my book, right from the time of Mir Jumla to the Battle of Saraighat. People, because he fought when he was on his sickbed, he would hardly walk, and he showed a great quality of a leader, that is in going and leading from the front. So all these qualities about Lachit Borphukan I found very inspirational, and I have tried to bring them out as much as possible. It has been not a history book as such. I mean, all the facts are there in place. There are no falsification of facts, but it has been put in a dramatized manner by me so as to make it more. Find history a dry and boring subject. So if it flows, I believe, from one page to another, it will be more interesting. Reading, and I must confess that there are just not books available outside of Assam on this topic. I found maybe 2 or 3 books outside Assam. I name them. One was a British officer named Gates' History of Assam. Jadunath Sarkar's History of Aurangzeb touches on the topic in a few chapters somewhere, but nothing in detail. And one book about Assamese history which I found on the internet, again written by a Bengali author around 1940. And not only that, but all the events which had taken place during those times in the 1660s, um, they have taken place around Guwahati. So I went there to not just do the research, but also have a good grasp of understanding as to what exactly must have transpired 300, 400 years ago. We find it surprising as to how can a battle have been fought on the river and you can't put anything else, maybe with the exception of the Ganges. And so once I went there and I saw the Brahmaputra for the first time, the river is actually just huge. You cannot stand on one bank and see the other bank clearly. And we are talking about the narrowest point here in Guwahati. And it is obviously far more wider. It is a huge river actually. In the 1630s or 1640s, one of these Mughal officers recorded that 35,000 boats passed Guwahati in just 1 month of Ramzan, which I think is and it shows that actually the river of life in Assam. And so I went there, I talked to people, and another thing I noticed is that the Assamese people have the same kind of adulation for it should be the other way around also. I believe a lot of these traditions which come down are also important apart from your normal formal written history, because I had gone to even just the Assam Bhavan in was extremely happy about me writing this book. Same thing happened with the people at the museum in Guwahati and a lot of other places where I have spoken about this. In fact, when I had gone there to Guwahati, there is a place there called high school. So essentially it is a one-story school which has been built on top of a embankment. Lachit Barphukan and Atanpura Gokhale, his prime minister, they had built a series of embankments all around Guwahati, a series of small, bund-like structures all around Guwahati, which would serve as its defense mechanism. And most of it is washed away. But some part just across the national highway, and it is called Lachitgarh, and a school on top of it called Lachitgarh High School. So I went there. I spoke to the principal, who was extremely glad again to know that I was writing. Make this book a success. He told me that yes, this is an old structure, and in fact once I walked on it, I realized that the land on either side was somewhat marshy land, but dried out marshy land. So obviously there was water here at some point of time. For and find those clues when you walk around Guwahati. Plus the fort of Itakhuli, which had to be conquered eventually by Ismail Siddiqui by scaling at night and pouring water into the cannons. As to how difficult it was to scale that fort at night because you have the river flowing on one side. Apart from this, thirdly, there is a big tank there, in fact, which is now a recreation spot, but to the Brahmaputra river, and it had served as a dock where the boats would sail in and they would dock these boats, they would repair the boats, and then again they would sail out to fight on the river. So we had a complete defense mechanism I've been walking in the footsteps of Lachit Barphukan and 10 or 15 kilometers maximum from Guwahati. Another place to visit is Agyatuti, which is across the bank, where again we have a good recollection of how. So uh, it was an extremely good outing to Guwahati, and apart from just the places where the battles took place, I also found Brahmaputra. In fact, a book called Tarikh-e-Asham, I found it at the Center for Antiquarian and Historical Studies, and so such sources proved to be very, very useful when I started writing Brahmaputra. That is one reason why how I went about exploring the city and exploring all those spots where the Mughals and the Assamese back in the 1660s. But there had been one as to how I was expecting, quite frankly, the book to do well, one in the northeast, that is Assam, and other places, and to do well in Maharashtra, because I would have access, obviously, to will also perk up interest. And in fact, I'm extremely happy to note that the book has become popular not only in these two parts but just about every other place. And thank everyone for taking interest in my book and appreciating the book. Obviously, this appreciation will go a long way in encouraging me to write more books and better books. As I will uh, state in the country where at least one or two copies of so and although I have put Chhatrapati Shivaji's name on the title, it is not for comparison. It is just for showing that similar events were taking place in Maharashtra at the same time. It is for perking up people's interest. And it has actually done its work, because a lot of people do tell me that they have read it, and that is why I purchased the book. That is what is Chhatrapati Shivaji and Lachit Barphukan, an Assamese warrior. These two names on the same book. And so again, the book was on that Brahmaputra has been now taken by a Bollywood production house owned by Sri Sunil Bohra, that is Bohra Brothers Private Limited. So we are going to quite soon. So that's how it has been, the reasons why I wrote this book, went about it, and how the response has been so far. Right, so that ends my talk. Any questions anyone has, please reply to them. Right. So, how did you get to writing history? Right. So, history has been somewhat of a subject of interest for me right from the beginning, right from childhood. Actually, I started writing, in Marathi history. My interest in Maratha history and medieval Indian history really increased because these forts were associated with the lives of great people, or very inspirational stories of Chhatrapati Shivaji and others. So these forts made me read that history, and as I went even further into the historical events, it became more and more of a favorite topic. So, the trigger had been an Amar Chitra Katha, which I had read long back about Lachit Barphukan. And once I read more about Maharashtra's history, more about Maratha history, and realized about guerrilla tactics and all these things as to, and the kind of morals that the Marathas were living on, I realized that there were parallels, at least as far as the reasons that the Ahoms were fighting for against the Mughals. So that made me research more about Assamese history. Questions? Uh, yes, I'm planning to write my next book on Maratha War of Independence, especially and Maharani Tarabai. Nothing been started on that as yet because I'm in Australia for my studies, and quite soon. Uh, any other questions? Thanks a lot, Dimple. Yeah, about I think written 11 articles so far. History, Assamese history, princely states. Yeah. So, right. Okay. By me, and hopefully everyone has liked it. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. I'll definitely reply. And see you soon for one more, or a few more in fact, FB live sessions. Once again, thanks to Indic Book Club and for books, and hope everyone likes the book too. Thank you and good night.